Over the last decade, Netflix has slowly taken over the entertainment industry, going from a mail-order movie rental service to one of the biggest players in film and television. The streaming giant started this game, and Netflix is still king of the streaming wars due in part to its clever use of streaming technologies, strong leadership, and highly successful original content. From House of Cards back in 2015 to the recent hit Squid Game, there is always a Netflix original show being talked about around the world, and not only there's original show, Netflix also provide the best TV show originated from elsewhere such as Breaking Bad. With multiple Emmys and Golden Globes to its name, winning more than any other streaming platform, Netflix's shows have not only been globally popular, they have also been critically acclaimed. There are also a ton of them. Netflix originals now make up more than 40% of their streaming library. With all that content to browse through, here are more than 50 best TV series you can stream on Netflix. Keep in mind there is no ranked in this list. Money Heist. A criminal mastermind who goes by the Professor has a plan to pull off the biggest heist in recorded history, to print billions of euros in the Royal Mint of Spain. To help him carry out the ambitious plan, he recruits 8 people with certain abilities and who have nothing to lose. The group of thieves take hostages to aid in their negotiations with the authorities, who strategize to come up with a way to capture the Professor. As more time elapses, the robbers prepare for a showdown with the police. Next. Dark. When 2 children go missing in a small German town, its sinful past is exposed along with the double lives and fractured relationships that exist among 4 families as they search for the kids. The mystery drama series introduces an intricate puzzle filled with twists that includes a web of curious characters, all of whom have a connection to the town's troubled history, whether they know it or not. The story includes supernatural elements that tie back to the same town in 1986. Dark represents the first German original series produced for Netflix. Black Mirror. Featuring stand-alone dramas, sharp, suspenseful, satirical tales that explore techno-paranoia. Black Mirror is a contemporary reworking of The Twilight Zone with stories that tap into the collective unease about the modern world. Each story features its own cast of unique characters. 13 Reasons Why. Newcomer Catherine Langford plays the role of Hannah, a young woman who takes her own life. 2 weeks after her tragic death, a classmate named Clay finds a mysterious box on his porch. Inside the box are recordings made by Hannah, on whom Clay had a crush, in which she explains the 13 reasons why she chose to commit suicide. If Clay decides to listen to the recordings, he will find out if and how he made the list. This intricate and heart-wrenching tale is told through Clay and Hannah's dual narratives. Next. The Witcher. The Witcher Geralt, a mutated monster hunter, struggles to find his place in a world in which people often prove more wicked than beasts. The End of the Fucking World. Based on the comic book series by Charles Forsman, The End of the Fucking World sees 2 17-year-old outsiders, James and Alyssa, embark on a road trip to find her estranged father, who left home when she was just a child. James, who is convinced he's a psychopath, has decided it's time to graduate from killing animals to something bigger, and he already has a target in mind. Alyssa, the embodiment of existential angst, feels like she doesn't fit in at her new school despite being quite popular. Together, they get caught up on a trail of violent events that grow increasingly more ominous as their quest progresses. Next. The Umbrella Academy. On one day in 1989, 43 infants are inexplicably born to random, unconnected women who showed no signs of pregnancy the day before. 7 are adopted by billionaire industrialist Sir Reginald Hargreaves, who creates the Umbrella Academy and prepares his children to save the world. In their teenage years, though, the family fractures and the team disbands. Fast forward to the present time, when the 6 surviving members of the clan reunite upon the news of Hargreaves' passing. They work together to solve a mystery surrounding their father's death, but divergent personalities and abilities again pull the estranged family apart, and a global apocalypse is another imminent threat. The series is based on a collection of comics and graphic novels created and written by My Chemical Romance lead singer Gerard Way. Breaking Bad. Mild-mannered high school chemistry teacher Walter White thinks his life can't get much worse. His salary barely makes ends meet, a situation not likely to improve once his pregnant wife gives birth, and their teenage son is battling cerebral palsy. But Walter is dumbstruck when he learns he has terminal cancer. Realizing that his illness probably will ruin his family financially, Walter makes a desperate bid to earn as much money as he can in the time he has left by turning an old RV into a meth lab on wheels. Better Call Saul. He wasn't always Saul Goodman, ace attorney for chemist turned meth dealer Walter White. 6 years before he begins to represent Albuquerque's most notorious criminal, Goodman is Jimmy McGill, a small-time attorney hustling to make a name for himself. He's a forceful champion for his low-income clients, an underdog whose morals and ambitions often clash. Jimmy works with Private Eye Mike Ehrmantraut, a former Philadelphia cop and recent transplant to the Southwest. Mike has a specialized skill set. He's a fixer of sticky situations that Jimmy soon learns to appreciate. The 100. When nuclear Armageddon destroys civilization on Earth, the only survivors are those on the 12 international space stations in orbit at the time. 3 generations later, the 4,000 survivors living on a space ark of linked stations see their resources dwindle and face draconian measures established to ensure humanity's future. Desperately looking for a solution, the Ark's leaders send 100 juvenile prisoners back to the planet to test its habitability. Having always lived in space, the exiles find the planet fascinating and terrifying, but with the fate of the human race in their hands, they must forge a path into the unknown. Lucifer. This series follows Lucifer, the original fallen angel, who has become dissatisfied with his life in hell. After abandoning his throne and retiring to Los Angeles, Lucifer indulges in his favorite things like women, wine and song, until a murder takes place outside of his upscale nightclub. For the first time in billions of years, the murder awakens something unfamiliar in Lucifer's soul that is eerily similar to compassion and sympathy. Lucifer is faced with another surprise when he meets an intriguing homicide detective named Chloe, who appears to possess an inherent goodness, unlike the worst of humanity, to which he is accustomed. Suddenly, Lucifer starts to wonder if there is hope for his soul. Next. Stranger Things. Mysteries unravel in a small Midwestern town in the 1980s, involving supernatural forces, secret experiments and one strange girl. Kingdom. The deceased king rises and a mysterious plague begins to spread. The prince must face a new breed of enemies to unveil the evil scheme and save his people. Peaky Blinders. Britain is a mixture of despair and hedonism in 1919 in the aftermath of the Great War. Returning soldiers, newly minted revolutions and criminal gangs are fighting for survival in a nation rocked by economic upheaval. One of the most powerful gangs of the time is the Peaky Blinders, run by returning war hero Thomas Shelby and his family. But Thomas has bigger ambitions than just running the streets. Next. Elite. When 3 working-class teens enroll in an exclusive private school in Spain, the clash between them and the wealthy students leads to murder. Next. Narcos. Netflix chronicles the rise of the cocaine trade in Colombia and the gripping real-life stories of drug kingpins of the late 80s in this raw, gritty original series. Also detailed are the actions taken by law enforcement as they battle in the war on drugs, targeting notorious and powerful figures that include drug lord Pablo Escobar. As efforts are made to control cocaine, one of the world's most valuable commodities, the many entities involved, legal, political, police, military and civilian, find themselves in conflict. Narcos Mexico. This continuation of Narcos explores the origins of the modern drug war by going back to its roots, starting at a time when the Mexican trafficking world was a loose, disorganized confederation of independent growers and dealers. It's the 1980s, and Felix Gallardo takes the helm of the Guadalajara cartel, unifying traffickers to build an empire. As DEA agent Kiki Camarena moves his wife and young son from California to Guadalajara to take on a new post, he learns his assignment is more challenging than he imagined. A tragic chain of events unfolds as Camarena gains intelligence on Gallardo and becomes more entangled in the mission. I Am Not Okay With This. A teenager navigates the complexities of high school, family and her sexuality while dealing with new superpowers. Never Have I Ever. After a traumatic year, a first-generation Indian American teenager wants to improve her status at school, but friends, family, and feelings don't make it easy on her. On My Block. On My Block follows a quartet of bright, street-savvy friends who are navigating their way through high school, including all the triumph, pain and newness they experience along the way. Lifelong friendships are tested as Mons, Ruby, Jamal and Cesar confront the challenges of adolescence and life in their predominantly Hispanic and Black neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles in this coming-of-age comedy series. Next. Chilling Adventure of Sabrina. This adaptation of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch tale is a dark coming-of-age story that traffics in horror and the occult. In the reimagined origin story, Sabrina Spellman wrestles to reconcile her dual nature, half witch, half mortal, while standing against the evil forces that threaten her, her family, including aunts Hilda and Zelda, and the daylight world humans inhabit. Kiernan Shipka leads the cast in the titular role of the show that is based on a comic series of the same name. Lock and Key. Following their father's murder, 3 siblings move into a house filled with reality-bending keys. Arcane. The origins of 2 iconic League champions, set in the utopian Piltover and the oppressed underground of Zon. Altered Carbon. More than 300 years in the future, society has been transformed by new technology, leading to human bodies being interchangeable and death no longer being permanent. Takeshi Kovacs is the only surviving soldier of a group of elite interstellar warriors who were defeated in an uprising against the New World Order. His mind was imprisoned for centuries until impossibly wealthy businessman Lawrence Bancroft offers him the chance to live again. Kovacs will have to do something for Bancroft, though, if he wants to be resurrected. Bancroft's request of Kovacs is to solve a murder. Next. Ozark. This drama series stars Jason Bateman as Marty Bird, a financial planner who relocates his family from Chicago to a summer resort community in the Ozarks. With wife Wendy and their 2 kids in tow, Marty is on the move after a money laundering scheme goes wrong, forcing him to pay off a substantial debt to a Mexican drug lord in order to keep his family safe. While the Bird's fate hangs in the balance, the dire circumstances force the fractured family to reconnect. Sense8. 8 strangers around the globe find themselves connected, first by a violent vision, then by their shared ability to connect with one another's thoughts and actions, and finally by the urgent need to find out what happened and why. Their need to know goes beyond simple curiosity. As they pursue answers, a mysterious organization hunts them down, intent on destroying them. You. What would you do for love? For a brilliant male bookstore manager who crosses paths with an aspiring female writer, this question is put to the test. A charming yet awkward crush becomes something even more sinister when the writer becomes the manager's obsession. Using social media and the internet, he uses every tool at his disposal to become close to her, even going so far as to remove any obstacle, including people that stands in his way of getting to her. Sex education. Socially awkward high school student Otis may not have much experience in the lovemaking department, but he gets good guidance on the topic in his personal sex ed course, Living with Mom Jean, who is a sex therapist. Being surrounded by manuals, videos and tediously open conversations about sex, Otis has become a reluctant expert on the subject. When his classmates learn about his home life, Otis decides to use his insider knowledge to improve his status at school, so he teams with whip-smart bad girl, Maeve, to set up an underground sex therapy clinic to deal with their classmates' problems. But through his analysis of teenage sexuality, Otis realizes that he may need some therapy of his own. Into the night. When the sun starts to kill everything in its path, a plane full of passengers must travel at night in an attempt to escape its destructive power and find some place safe. Anne with an E. In the late 19th century, the life of Anne, a young and bright orphan, undergoes a dramatic shift when she is adopted by a brother-sister duo. Squid Game. Hundreds of cash-strapped contestants accept an invitation to compete in children's games for a tempting prize, but the stakes are deadly. Lupin. A retelling of the classic French story about Arsène Lupin, the world-famous gentleman thief and master of disguise. Alice in Borderland. Orisu, a listless, jobless and video game-obsessed young man, suddenly finds himself in a strange, emptied-out version of Tokyo in which he and his friends must compete in dangerous games in order to survive. In this strange world, Orisu meets Usagi, a young woman who's navigating the games alone. Together, they set out to unravel one mystery after another as they risk their lives and confront what it means to live. Wednesday. Follows Wednesday Addams' years as a student, when she attempts to master her emerging psychic ability, thwart a killing spree, and solve the mystery that embroiled her parents. Mindhunter. Catching a criminal often requires the authorities to get inside the villain's mind to figure out how he thinks. That's the job of FBI agents Holden Ford and Bill Tench. They attempt to understand and catch serial killers by studying their damaged psyches. Along the way, the agents pioneer the development of modern serial killer profiling. Next. The Haunting of Hill House. This modern reimagining of the Shirley Jackson novel follows siblings who, as children, grew up in what would go on to become the most famous haunted house in the country. Now adults, they are forced back together in the face of tragedy and must finally confront the ghosts of their past. Some of those ghosts still lurk in their minds, while others may actually be stalking the shadows of Hill House. All of Us Are Dead. Trapped students must escape their high school, which has become ground zero for a zombie virus outbreak. The Queen's Gambit. Set during the Cold War era, orphan chess prodigy Beth Harmon struggles with addiction in a quest to become the greatest chess player in the world. Orange is the New Black. 10 years after transporting drug money to Alex, Piper is imprisoned for the crime. The toughness of prison changes her drastically as an individual, compelling her to do the unthinkable. House of Cards. Frank Underwood is a Democrat appointed as the Secretary of State. Along with his wife, he sets out on a quest to seek revenge from the people who betrayed him, while successfully rising to supremacy. Bridgerton. The 8 close-knit siblings of the Bridgerton family look for love and happiness in London high society. Emily in Paris. A young American woman from the Midwest is hired by a marketing firm in Paris to provide them with an American perspective on things. How to sell drugs online fast. To impress his former girlfriend, a nerdy teen starts selling drugs online out of his bedroom, and he becomes one of Europe's biggest dealers. Maid. Single mother Alex turns to housecleaning to make ends meet as she escapes an abusive relationship and overcomes homelessness to create a better life for her daughter, Maddie. The Last Dance. Led by Michael Jordan, the 1990s Chicago Bulls established themselves as one of the most notable dynasties in sports history. Sweet Tooth. A boy who is half human and half deer survives in a post-apocalyptic world with other hybrids. Manifest. When Montego Air Flight 828 landed safely after a turbulent but routine flight, the crew and passengers were relieved. But in the span of those few hours, the world had aged 5 years, and after mourning their loss, their friends, families and colleagues had given up hope and moved on. Now, faced with the impossible, they're all given a second chance. But as their new realities become clear, a deeper mystery unfolds, and some of the returned passengers soon realize they may be meant for something greater than they ever thought possible. Next. One Piece. Monkey D. Luffy and his pirate crew explore a fantastical world of endless oceans and exotic islands in search of the world's ultimate treasure to become the next pirate king. Three-Body Problem. A fateful decision made in 1960s China reverberates in the present, where a group of scientists partner with a detective to confront an existential planetary threat. Baby Reindeer. The story follows writer and performer Richard Gadd's warped relationship with a female stalker and the impact it has on him as he is ultimately forced to face a deep, dark buried trauma. The Gentleman. This Netflix series follows the adventures of former soldier and recently titled Eddie, who inherits the family estate, and unknowingly, a joint venture weed empire with a London gang. One day, Emma and Dexter meet on the night of their university graduation. We see them every year on the anniversary of that date, July 15th. Emma is smart but success doesn't come quickly for her, whereas for Dexter, success and women come very easily. Through the years they grow apart as their lives take different directions and they meet other people. But as they grow apart from those other people and their lives start taking opposite directions again, Emma and Dexter find that they belong with each other. The series takes place on the same day every year of Dexter and Emma's lives from 1988 to 2007. There are more 50 best Netflix series of all time according to us. Write your favorite Netflix series in comments section below. Thank you for watching.